All right. I got 6:30. We'll call the regular meeting of the Common Council to order. Roll call, please.
Seth,
Here.
Andrew,
Here.
Todd Kirking,
Here.
Emma,
Here.
Todd Spaeth,
Here.
Cindy,
Here.
John,
Here.
Crystal,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
and Justin.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Item number 2, approval of the February 25th, 2025 regular council minutes.
And this is Crystal. I would move approval of those minutes without any additions or corrections.
ZJ, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 3, council announcements. Any member of the council have anything? Cindy, sorry.
Maybe you're going to say the same thing. I want to remind everyone to fill out the survey for our comprehensive plan. Also for our park and rec plan and for historic preservation plan. It's due by March 28th. It's online for residents and, well, you guys are all residents, but all of you out there, residents and non-residents alike, please consider filling out the survey. And it will help us all in the planning of the future of Viroqua. Thank you.
And it's one survey, but it encompasses all 3 things that you
Correct.
mentioned. Yes. So it's doesn't take a lot of time, and I think there's some good information in there. So please, thank you, Cindy. Anything else? All right, item number 4, first period for public comment. Any members of the public wish to make a comment, now would be the time. If anybody online would like to make a comment, they could also do so now.
You're good, Mayor.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5, which is an update on operational referendum for Viroqua area schools on April 1st, 2025.
All right. So thank you guys for having us in tonight. I'm Tom Burkhalter, District Administrator, back to share a few updates about the district and pertaining to the operational referendum here on April 1st. Believe it or not, this is not my favorite topic. This is not what I like to do with my time. Not that it's the company that is the issue, but it's the message that I have to convey. And it's a piece that the system is broken, and it's a piece that I think everybody, once you look at it, can agree with. We have fallen short as a state in providing the needs of our public schools, and Viroqua is no different. And so when we talk through a couple of things and why we need to do what we need to do, I think it's important to kind of go back and remember. We're just gonna talk a little bit about this, but the reason that over 88% of districts in the state of Wisconsin have had to go to operational referendum is because of a couple of things, 2 major ones. One in 1992 under Governor Tommy Thompson, he instituted what was called revenue limits, which essentially said this is what it costs your district to run and operate in 1992. This is what it's going to cost you in 1993. And that was a piece where it created a system of winners and losers from that day forward. So if you were a high spending district in 1992, your budget was higher in 1993. If you were being frugal in 1992, you then were locked into being a district that into perpetuity was a frugal district. The only saving grace at that time in 1992 was that your revenue limit. So essentially, if you can think of that water bottle, I'm going to steal it actually from you, Nate. So this is the water bottle. So this is how public school financing works. So 1 year, the state will make up this much of your water bottle. The cap is the revenue limit. You can't spend $1 more per student. Cap is the revenue limit. And then what's left is made up by the local tax base, right? And so the last 2 governors, each of them have made statements that they've made historic investments in public education, and they have on paper. And what they did was they didn't raise the revenue limit, but they raised the amount that the state gave, which meant that there were less that the local taxpayers had to pick up. So that was great. but they didn't raise the revenue limit. So we didn't get a dollar more to spend. Now, local tax, so the way that this has played out in multiple administrations now is that when we go through this and you hear these historic pieces, it is just a local tax cut. We are the vehicle in which it is used. It is not saying that we get any more money per student. So the only saving grace from 1992 was that every year your bottle got the same, got bigger at the rate of inflation. So if inflation was stuck at 2%, your bottle got 2% bigger, you could pay your bills. So you weren't ever going to get ahead, but you also knew you could pay your bills. And then in 2009, under the Walker administration, they said, you do not get inflationary increases anymore. You do not get inflationary increases anymore, and you have a revenue limit. So that meant the only way that we can keep up with inflation is by coming to our local taxpayers and asking for a bigger bottle. That is our only lever. That's the only lever that any school has, which is why you've seen 88% of districts in the state of Wisconsin have to go to an operational referendum. This is not something that is Viroqua specific. It's not something that we're unique in. Unfortunately, this is the game. This is the only thing that we can do to keep up with our costs. So in 2009, if we would have continued with the inflationary increases as they were designed with a revenue limit, that would have equated to about $3,300 a student for Viroqua area schools, which equates to $3.4 million per year in funding. That's not to increase offerings. That's not to enhance compensation packages. That's to maintain what was there from 2009. So we're coming to our community asking for a portion of that back, which is $1.3 million. Now, we've had an operational referendum since 2004. This is a renewal. We've renewed in 2010, we renewed in 2015, we renewed in 2020. This is our operational referendum is up. I think one thing to point out is, why are we only going for 2 years instead of the typical 5? I was asked by a board member, and I answered this question honestly. When he asked, in 5 years, are you able to confidently say that this is the right amount that we're going to need? And my answer was very clearly and plainly, no, I am not confident at all in what the state is going to do. We can't budget past 2 years, and that's why we're at 2 years, is because we can fit with the biennial budget cycle, and we can make sure that we're giving the most accurate picture possible. So we're not taking too much from our local tax base, and we're not taking too little, which is what happened in the last 2 years. And so when we went for our last referendum, it was not enough. And we've had to make incredible decisions and hard decisions for the school district the last 2 years. So we've doubled our teachers and our staff's deductibles and premiums for their healthcare coverage, and we did not fill 6 teaching positions this last year. Now, that wouldn't be a problem if we were in a major decline in enrollment, and we're not. So we've actually gained, it's not much, but it's 4 students. So these decisions are not made because we're plummeting in enrollment. We're not. We've been very steady over the last half decade. These decisions are solely made because we have to with the budget constraints that we have. And so that's where we're at right now. So we're asking for 1.3 million. Chris is going to talk about the numbers a little bit.
Sure.
So our current mill rate is $7.10. The additional 700, so we've got our current operating referendum is $550,000. This 1.3 is going to add $750,000 to that. It's going to increase the mill rate by 11 cents. So we're going to go to 721. And essentially what obviously that means it's $11 per 100,000. If your average home in Viroqua is maybe $250,000, that's $28 a year, about $2.29 a month. It by no means is a Cadillac plan. This is getting us what we need to operate the school. Even in the second year of this, there is a slight deficit. So it's not something it's something we can work with. But this isn't, expanding programs or adding this or adding that. It's maintaining, keeping things, in place. And we're really proud of the product that we're able to provide. I think our academic standing, stay within our conference and those kind of things is very strong. And we've shown that we've been able to do that with with limited resources and do so, in a fiscally conservative manner. That's how we've always operated. That's how we'll continue to operate. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that piece.
So, and Chris is being a little humble. I'll brag a little bit. We are the third lowest spending school in the Cooley Conference, and we have the top 2 highest scoring ACTs as far as high schools in the Cooley Conference. So Laurel High School and Viroqua High School are competing as the best academic schools in this conference, and we're third from the bottom in what we are able to use. So what happens if this gets approved? We still are third from the bottom. We don't even leapfrog one school. So if this passes, we don't move up that chart. And so this is a piece that I think is really important, that we are really proud of the product we're putting out and the value that we're providing when compared across any school in the state of Wisconsin, but specifically on this side of the state. One thing that I do think we need to discuss, and it's just it's a piece that I think it's needed for people to understand. One is it's the voucher impact, right? So when we talk about this, I think Viroqua residents have got to realize what's going on. And it's not because I'm anti-private school. I've worked in private schools and public schools. I'm not anti-private school. I am 100% anti how this is being funded right now. And so when we talk about this, this is a piece where I want to make sure there's a clear distinction here. Charter schools are not voucher schools. So VAMS, or the Montessori School, Laurel High School, Better Futures High School are our charter schools. They are us, we are them. We get the same dollar amount per student. They're under our board's authority. Like they are us, we are them. Private schools that receive voucher money are what are voucher schools. And so those are private, schools. Some are religious, some are not, that take public money that it comes through on your tax bill as Viroqua area schools. And so it's something that is really hard to believe, but that is absolutely how this works. So what is the impact of private vouchers on our local tax base? It's $952,000 this last year. So that's 1 out of every $7 on your tax bill that says Viroqua area schools is not coming to Viroqua area schools. We don't know where it's going. We don't have accountability for that. And it's absolutely asinine for that to come through on your tax bill saying it's us. It's inappropriate. I don't know how it's legal. It's absolutely misleading intentionally. And that's how this works. And so how this works is at the end of the year, Chris gets a bill, an invoice from the state of Wisconsin, and we transfer funds to DPI that then disperses out to private voucher schools. And that's, again, 1 of every $7. We are one of the top 5 percentage-wise in the state of Wisconsin. And what that would tell you is, or paint the picture, is that we're bleeding students, and we're not. We actually gain more students from private schools than we lose to private schools. The problem is a couple of things. It's twofold. One, every year that percentage gets higher and higher of those that can qualify for vouchers. Every year it goes up. And the second piece is there's been a really intentional target for homeschool families. And obviously, you know that our homeschool population is incredibly high in this area, throughout this area. And so what is happening with that is there are private virtual schools outside of our area that are targeting homeschool families. And when that happens, money not only leaves this area and doesn't come to the public school, it also just leaves the area. It's just not here. This is not like a piece where they're living here, working here, doing anything here. It's going out and primarily to a private school in Milwaukee. And so this is a piece that is something that is important for people to know. Again, I am not anti-private school. I love having choices. I love being in a community that offers those options. Not opposed to that whatsoever. Absolutely opposed to your tax bill saying Viroqua area schools and then having 1/7 of that going out of Viroqua area schools. I think that is absolutely inappropriate. And I'll tell you how I really feel later. So again, 1.3 million. it's going to have a tax rate impact of 11 cents on the mill. It's $28 a year for the typical $250,000 property. We're trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can be. What questions do you guys have for us?
Tom, thank you very much. And you've had a couple sessions over at the school that I'm guessing went into much more in depth than you were able to go tonight.
Yep.
I just wanted to point out, I believe at least one of those, if not both, were recorded
Yep.
by Vernon Reporter and are available online.
Yes.
For folks if they want to watch. There's more graphics on there that can help kind of paint the picture.
Yep.
And I think it was a really good presentation. So if you're curious more, that's a great spot to go and see the
Absolutely.
actual
Mhm.
presentation.
Yep. What you have in front of you is a one pager, but then is also a pocket guide. So it's foldable, and it is something that is not a vote yes or any type of piece like that. It is solely to get the information out there. So it's got what we need on there. It's got what the mill rate or what the tax impact is going to be, and then on the back it's got a QR code that goes right to our website. And so I'm going to leave a stack of these with Nate. If you have people that have questions, again, this is not telling them to vote yes or no, but it's giving them information so that they are informed for when they vote. I'm not asking you guys to go out and canvass or do anything like that, but by golly, people need to know what they're voting for on April 1st. Yeah.
Is there any information that comes in the scannable code that is able to be passed along on social media?
So if you follow Viroqua area schools on social media, we're posting 2 times a week that has the link right on there and has the QR code right on there. So it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. So there will be another one coming out in a couple of days. There was one that came out today. So if you don't follow that, again, you can do that, scan that QR code, and it takes you right to our website where we have all of the information that you could possibly want and probably more than you want. So
Thank you.
Tom, what's the impact if this does not pass?
yeah. The impact is devastating. It's devastating. So again, we've gone through 2 really tough budget years because the operational referendum amount turned out not to be enough from 2020. That's the reality. I'm not blaming anyone. Chris and I weren't here, but I don't think anybody could have predicted what happened over the last 5 years when it comes to inflation, when it comes to everything for cost with the utilities and everything like that. I'm not blaming anybody. It's the reality. And so what that led to last year was a massive cut. When we talk about this, 6 teachers, we have 95 teachers. So this is not like 6 out of 1,000 got cut. This is a piece where we've made really, really tough decisions. Decisions that whether if you can believe it, are wildly unpopular with our staff, right? These aren't fun conversations and they're not fun decisions. But they're the ones we made because we had to. That's what we're tasked with as leaders of this district, and we did it. At this point, we would be at a place where we would be losing an additional 6 to 10 staff members. We'd be talking about another major hike in our benefits package as far as what our employees pay into for their contributions in both deductibles and in premiums. And we'd also be talking about things like losing bus routes. If you see the size of our district, we have students on the bus forever right now. We would have to lose bus routes. We would be losing multiple sports. This is a piece where I can't look a teacher in the eye and say, hey, we have to let you go because of budgetary reasons, and not look under every stone. We're talking catastrophic. This is a piece where we don't have that ability to not impact our students' experience. Hope that was direct enough for you.
I just wanted people to hear it. So
Any other questions?
I may.
Mhm.
And I don't want to keep you here longer than you need to be, but I think it's probably I think I know enough to maybe ask a question that maybe isn't right, but I'm going to try it anyway and see. So the Viroqua Public School District is obligated to provide certain services to every school entity within its borders, regardless if they're private or public. Is that correct?
Yes.
So cuts to Viroqua Area School District's budget could potentially even impact in a reduction of services
Yeah.
available to non-public schools in our district.
Yeah, especially when it comes to busing. I mean, that's
Sure.
the transportation would be a big one. We also do, partner, depending on what the multiple sports, we do partner with them. As far as the special ed services that we're required to provide, that's going to be required whether or not this passes. So at our private schools. And so that piece isn't going to potentially change.
Sure.
But absolutely some of the auxiliary services outside of that will be impacted.
I asked that question because I was surprised to find out that the public school district still provides services to the
Mhm.
private schools in the district.
Yep.
And there's not a financial benefit to the district to
No.
do it. It's
We've gotta
just
figure it out.
what has to
Mhm.
happen. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, it impacts every
Everybody.
student in the
Everybody.
district.
Mhm.
So.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right. Again, April 1st. And if you have any questions, scan the QR code or go online or just give me a call at the school. If you're thinking it or wondering it, so is someone else. So please do not hesitate. I want people to make an informed decision on April 1st.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, we will move on then to item number 6, which is discussion with possible action on preliminary resolution to rezone property from B3 Industrial District to R2 Residential District.
Okay, this is something that is coming forward from Plan Commission, and I'm kind of going to go through a little bit of the process on how this rezoning would work. And then Nate and I believe Chad may jump in on what's actually the request on this. So the first step in a rezoning of a property comes with this preliminary resolution. So Plan Commission met and they forwarded this resolution to you with the request from Ryan and Michelle Schott to be able to rezone their property from the B3 zone to R2 residential. And in your packet, and I believe on the next slide, you'll see that where that location is. So this is the first piece of that. If you guys decide to move forward with this, the next thing would be to send it back to Plan Commission. There has to be another public hearing on this. And I have to do, after it passes tonight, I would have to do a Class 3 notice, which means it has to be published for 3 weeks. So it can't come back from Plan Commission to council no sooner than 40 days. So it's usually about a month out. So once they have that public hearing at Plan Commission, if you recommended you go back to Plan Commission, then the council would also have a public hearing. So there's basically 2 more public hearings that would have to happen with this. And then a vote for us to rezone, and that's by ordinance, which again would have to either be read and then only one time and then just suspend the rules and not do a second reading or do a second reading. So this is not a fast process. This is something that happens and it's by statute that it has to happen this way. So this is the first step. And I don't know if Nate, did you want to go kind of into what the reasoning behind this? It's currently under a conditional use permit. However, this process kind of takes it out of that.
So if Chief wants to join me and Brian's here as well. Brian, if you want to go ahead and give a little bit of background just the quick briefer about what you guys are doing there and just to provide a little more context.
Yep, the green one. Okay. Now I'm Brian Schott, and yeah, we're trying to section off roughly 0.6 of an acre off the corner of our property right there that if you've gone down Railroad Avenue, you will see a new house being built there. We're getting the sheetrock is getting done, and so we would hopefully maybe be able to get this done before we could. I don't know if it would affect of being able to move in. I have never asked that question. I guess I'll ask that question right now. If this isn't resolved, can we even move in?
So yeah,
Because you're operating under a conditional use.
yeah, so you have the
Okay,
conditional
okay.
use permit. I
Yep.
think the background for wanting this to be rezoned was because there was financing tied to
Well,
it.
the other part is that I cannot sell my farm to my son and daughter-in-law until this is parceled off because the bank won't allow two people to have own the same piece of property. So it's cumbersome on trying to get it done. I appreciate everybody doing what they're doing. I know it's going to take a little bit of time. So I guess if anybody, I have some, if anybody wants a little bit closer map of something like that, I do have that. I have some of those or whatever, but that's pretty much what it is right there on the corner, right there. So yeah, the house is moving along and we would like to, get this done as whatever quickly as possible as we can.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
So we talked about this in Plan Commission. Chief and I will try to give you the short version here so we don't have to go through the whole thing. But essentially, they recommended this to be moved forward for rezoning. And again, I'll just kind of do a quick outline with my mouse here about where the property in question is that they would like to parcel off. The reason, again, we're doing this is because for financing purposes, there does need to be a separate property. But if we do the separate property, there's concerns about whether the conditional use permit that we took care of last year, it won't follow the property properly. So our best shot in conversations with George Hopkins, city attorney, was just to rezone the thing. Fair?
That pretty much sums it up. If it wasn't a financing piece and they had time through the comprehensive plan, the suggestion will be to turn this into a residential district. That property is wrapped with houses currently, and there is multiple lots that should be residential, right? And so, again, in a year, you'll probably see that turn to residential through the comprehensive plan, but the Schatz don't have time to wait for that. So this is the cleanest, quickest, and smartest way to go about it. And get that cleaned up now, and then all these conversations will be useless in probably a year. But again, we've got what we've got, and George and I went back and forth a lot on this. Nate's been involved, Lori, everybody, and again, this is the cleanest, quickest way to address this situation. So, yeah. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah. So just one more thing is that from an education standpoint, the biggest concern that I had was the one around spot zoning. Right, you have a R2 district in the middle, surrounded on all sides by a B3 district, and we worked on it with George and Chad, and what we've identified is that spot zoning in and of itself is not illegal. We can do it. The trick is that you have to do it on the grounds that it benefits the public at large. You can't do it simply because it's the benefit to the property owner. And so when we look at this, to Chad's point, is that this entire section of town is residential. And I think the city would really be frustrated if instead of a house going up there, there was some sort of heavy industrial facility that got plunked down right there. So we're changing the zoning, yes, on a timeline that meets the Schatz needs, but more so because it's an overall public benefit to the city of Viroqua to rezone this. And in reality, when Chad and I really got into it, we identified it really should be more than just the Schatz property that's rezoned. A lot of these vacant properties, residential, should all be rezoned. But we're trying not to get too heavy-handed with it while we wait for the comprehensive plan to come around. And it's also not on the agenda to do. We can't just say, oh, instead of just doing the parcels that they're talking about, let's do that whole neighborhood, right? We can't do that. So I just want to bring that up because if anybody else came forward and said, well, you spot zone for them, spot zone for us, it has to meet certain criteria. That's a public benefit to everybody and not just that property owner because they want to do something different. So again, I think the chief and I and George Hopkins are in agreement. The Plan Commission forwarded it to council with their full support. And yeah, we're happy. I think there were some questions ready to come out.
I didn't. Does anybody have any questions?
And I will say too, that through this process, he is going to do a certified survey map. So during all of this, it's going to kind of all try and get at the same time. So it's not like piecemeal. So in this time frame now, where we have this 3 weeks. Now you can kind of maybe start working on that, and I can take that to Plan Commission the same time we do the public hearing, which would probably be about the time frame, just to help you out on that.
So the motion would be to move this back to planning commission?
It would be to
Again, or
approve the
approve.
resolution, which does that
Oh,
process.
okay. Okay. You ready for a motion?
Sure.
Okay. Todd here. I make a motion then that we act on this preliminary resolution to rezone property from B3 industrial to R2 residential as discussed.
This is AJ. I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Doesn't need a roll call, does it? Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Chief. All right, we'll move on to item number 7, which is discussion with possible action on Vernon County Community Funds Grant.
So this development grant program from the county is now in its second year. The city was successful in obtaining the grant last year under the Eckhart Playground project. This was sent out as part of your packet, so hopefully you read it and got the general gist of what kind of projects they're looking for. As you can tell, it's fairly open-ended, and it's back again this year. So we're really appreciative. I mean, I personally am appreciative of what the county has done to really structure this grant and make it available to the other municipalities. And so why it's here today is because we have multiple requests for this grant, and the city only gets one application per year. So we as a city have to decide which application we're going to forward or which project we're going to forward and back to submit an application. Similar to other grants like CDI grant and other things we've done with the state. And so we talked about this in our department head meeting and sort of asked around the department heads like, hey, what are you looking for that would be a good fit here? And then we also received a request from a community member. Gail Free is here from the Vernon County Historical Society. And so we're just going to kind of briefly talk through the 3 projects, talk about what has the best chance, what appeals to you the most, whatever. And then you guys make a decision on like, let's back that project for this year. Okay, so if there's no questions about overall what we're trying to do tonight or the grant, I'm going to go ahead and cue Gail up to talk for 5 to 6 minutes about his project.
Thank you. As he said, I'm Gail Free. First, I want to congratulate you guys on your many accomplishments. You're going to leave a legacy of improving an already great town. And I think Viroqua is the reason that Vernon County is one of the few rural counties that actually sees an increase of full-time residents. That's pretty rare in this state. I'm leading the HVAC fundraiser for the museum. The museum is owned by the Vernon County Historical Society. 20 plus years ago, the museum curator was a department head of the county. They were county employees, and that got switched. They thought it was costing them too much money, so way back then they decided to give the Historical Society annual donation of 30 grand. And from that time on, they've been on our own. We've been on our own. And that money allows us to have 2 part-time employees. What helps out is we have volunteers. First of all, we have over 300 members, but we have office volunteers that contribute over 2,600 hours a year, and that's documented. That's what keeps things rocking and rolling. Prior to COVID, we had 4,000 visitors a year, and I don't think we've ever totally recovered from that. There's no charge to do a tour at the museum, but we get donations that add up to about 5 grand every year. Having a 12-month operation would almost double our opportunity to give these tours. Vernon County has 40% of the population living in disadvantaged communities. Viroqua is not one of them, but our number of low-income housing is 65%, which meets that criteria. Museums return 5 times as much money in local, state, and federal tax revenue as what they receive from local governments, from all governments. Tourism, we all know tourism brings a lot of money into this area, and it's a perfect location. We're close enough to Milwaukee, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Viroqua has a lot to offer. Viroqua, being the county seat, gets a few benefits that outlying communities don't. And when I first moved here back in '91, I thought the Vernon County Viroqua partnership was a little stronger than it is now, but it's still very important. The last big project that the Historical Society had was in 2007. They installed the elevator. And this HVAC project has been talked about ever since. And I get sick and tired of people talking and not doing anything. And I decided we couldn't wait any longer. I'm going on 75 years old, and I'm one of the younger volunteers. That scares the liver out of me. So we decided that now's the time. We need 125,000. We just got a good start, but we're at 45,000 right now. We'll pass out the flyer later or now. Please review the flyer because it outlines the needs and benefits of providing heating and cooling in the second and third floors of the museum. I'm not even going to go into that because you can read the flyer. Historic preservation and sustainability are natural partners. This project will allow us to preserve our history and also save our historic building and all of its artifacts. We make it easy to donate because we partnered with the Viroqua Area Foundation. So please tell your neighbors and friends because this is going to take the whole community to make this happen. I came here tonight to ask you to give up your 2025 Vernon County Community Development Grant position to support this project. You probably don't remember, but I did serve as Finance Committee Chairman of this council for a number of years. I do know how tight budgets are, and I do understand you may have in-house use for this grant, and that's fine. You know, that probably should come first. I shouldn't say that, but if I was on the council, that would take priority. But I wanted to talk to you about this anyway, because I also know that if the council finds a project that they really like, guess what? The Finance Committee will figure out a way to fund it. I've been watching a one-time donation of 5,000 or 10,000 would really help us get this project going. I've been watching Justin and Nate for the last few years and been pretty much amazed at their ability to get things funded. And I can't decide which one of them has the Midas touch, but I think maybe both of them do. Thank you for your consideration of this project. And I also want to thank all of those that have donated already personally. And I'm open to any questions or comments. I didn't want to go into it too deep because you all know how to read.
Thank you, Gail. Questions?
How often is the museum open with the current heating and air scenario? You said you want to make it a 12-month available. Is it closed?
The
right
first
now?
floor offices are open year round.
Okay.
Hours vary, they're shorter in winter. But if you want to come in the middle of winter and do a tour, you can, but wear a snowmobile suit.
Okay. Understood.
The people don't stay too long in winter.
I think I personally took a tour in the summer and it's warm and humid, not a lot of air circulation.
Humid. That's one thing that people don't realize. All these artifacts are susceptible to moisture, and we're starting to see the negative effects of it. And this building was built, I don't want to take up your time because I hate long meetings. And Justin has a hammer.
Yeah. Looking at the agenda, I think that ship's already sailed, so just go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that
Yeah.
building was built as a full-time occupancy school.
Right.
So it has a lot of things that leads to heat loss through the roof vent and the air chases and everything. And insulating the attic is part of it, and controlling that roof vent is part of that insulation process. So that is really going to change the character of the building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for Gail? Thanks.
Okay. What's that?
Meeting you wanna go?
I have no jokes like Gail did. Thank you, Gail. Gail was my buddy when I started as library director. He was the conduit from the library to the city council. So I have a very big heart for Gail. I was just going to mention, as you know, I have been fundraising for the end of time to build a community room adjacent to the library. And this project, so far when we started, was estimated at $350,000. To date, about $200,000 has been raised. What was really encouraging to me, and I'm still not poo-pooing it too much, but when Senator Tammy Baldwin in 2024 put out her offer for people to apply for federal appropriation dollars through the federal budget, I applied for $250,000, which would finish the project. And I was told this is a tough road to go because your application is under the microscope through numerous committees, picking apart every little thing they possibly can pick apart. Ironically, the community room project made it through every one of those committees, made it through all of the scrutiny, all of the really heavy lookers, and we are now basically in the hands of the president to sign the bill because our project is in the federal draft budget. However, I did receive an email, I shared it with Nate, from Tammy Baldwin's Washington, D.C. staff last week, saying your project is in the only place it can be right now, which is waiting for the president's signature. Senator Baldwin is 100% behind it, but because of the uncertainty in Washington right now, we want you to apply for funding for 2026. So they're saying your project has not been removed from the 2025 federal budget. However, we are so strongly behind this, we want to make sure that if it falls apart in 2025, that you have the right again to ask for in 2026. And that would be for the same amount, $250,000. So with that, if that would come through, our project would be fully funded. However, because of the uncertainty in Washington right now, that's why this project is coming back up for the Vernon County Community Development Grant, because I don't want to stop fundraising. My quest for bringing this room to Viroqua was because there's such a need. There are so many groups that call the library saying we need a meeting space. And I have to say no so many times because the groups are too large for the spaces we have in the library. It just happened again in February. A woman called and said, I talked to the city administrator. He referred me to you, Trina. Can you host a group of 40? And I can't. And so it's really unfortunate we're not able to bring these groups to town just because there isn't a space. And that is why I'm doing this, because our phone never quits at the library. It rings all the time for large groups or groups that want to meet when the library is closed. The room that I'm building would be open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So we could always, for the most part, I think, say yes. It would be able to house 129 people. It has full bathrooms and a kitchen. So people could come in for the entire day with crock pots to have barbecues and coffee, bathrooms inside, and full technology. So I know there's a need. I don't need another project at all, but I feel there's such an important need in this community for this space. And so I am in it till the end. So I don't know if there's any questions for me. This is not a new topic by any means. It's one that just doesn't end and just keeps going.
Thanks, Trina.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Questions?
Yeah, you bet.
All right. Cindy?
Yes. Those are both good things, but I'd like to put in a pitch for the Viroqua Welcome Center. I'll remind you again what it's going to be: information center, downtown public restrooms, trailhead, meeting space, not large, but small groups. And also, if we pass the, sign the lease tonight, it will be the office for the chamber. Why do I think it's such a good fit for the grant? If you read what the grant says, it says it's supposed to implement projects that will strengthen economic development and resiliency. It's hard to argue that an information center with the chamber office is not going to strengthen economic development. The mission of the chamber is to strengthen the business community, preserve the history and beauty of historic downtown district, support community-wide events throughout the year, and provide resources to tourists visiting from all over the world. Eligible projects that they list there, they say updates to a trail system. We are going to have a trailhead for the whole county. That definitely will be an update to provide, let people know, public visitors and locals, what recreational trails there are in town or in the county. It also says wayfinding signage. We will have signage, wayfinding signage is, where's my definition here? It's provides amenities, points of interest, and important destinations throughout the county. Maps, QR codes, and also actual signs, physical signs. And then the last thing it says, under one of the other things, it says that there is ADA compliance, improving the accessibility for aging and disabled residents. We're going to offer ADA compliant downtown restrooms all year long, which will be another big plus for the county, the city and the county, I'd say. So, like I said before, I think we well fit the parameters of what this grant is for. We are so close to the finish line now. We had our bid opening last Monday. We need to raise some more contingency money, 60,000, which we are working on, and we will raise it. But this 10,000 would certainly be a big help. So I hope you will consider letting this be the project that goes forward this year. Thank you. Any questions for me? You've heard this spiel many times.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy. So those are your three options. And I guess discuss. My office doesn't have a recommendation at this point. I think I encourage the people leading the projects to present their project in the best light, and sort of this is your guys' call at this point about what you think's going to be. And the only thing I would encourage is like what's going to be competitive, what, as Cindy sort of pointed on her, what fits the parameters of the guideline, which projects do you want to back? There's all sorts of considerations, but I'll leave that up to you guys to discuss.
Nate, do you know what kind of projects have been successful in the past with this grant?
Yeah, great question. So last year we applied on an Eckhart Playground project, and that was very successful. The grant process itself is slight, but I think exactly what they have on there, Emma, in the eligible projects is a good indicator of stuff that they funded before. So it is a pretty broad opportunity with some specific focuses.
Thoughts? This is the discussion part.
We are the one that's closest, like I said, and this would put us over the finish line. Get the 60,000. I mean, the 10,000 would definitely help us, and it would benefit. I think we really meet the parameters. It'd be hard for them to say that we didn't, especially with the chamber office there.
This is Crystal. And do I have to make a motion or can I speak?
Speak.
Thank you.
Please speak first.
Okay.
Let's speak.
These are all very worthy projects. I'm concerned about the Historical Society because I don't know who else is going to help them. That's just one of the things that I see. And I know that the artifacts in there do deteriorate very fast. And if we could do anything to help them, I said, you guys are so close. And I said, and Trina is so close. But I said, I wonder, is there any wisdom in looking at which project is probably going to be most likely to be successful? I'm just asking. Thank you.
I have a question, I guess, and Cindy and I were talking earlier today, and this is a one-time application process where everybody submits, there's a deadline, they go through them, they choose, and then it's over for the year, correct? Right. So we weren't sure, I think, when Cindy and I spoke earlier today about that, so.
Yeah, because we had the ideas like, well, can we submit all three? We know you're only going to take one, but let's hedge bets.
Right. Or, I mean, if it's kind of, they come in when they come in and they evaluate them as they come in, could you submit one? If it didn't work, can you submit another one, kind of a thing, which I didn't think that was the case, but that was a question that came up on our conversation, so.
I mean, you could always try, but the application guidelines is pretty explicit about you get one application a year.
Right.
And so taking that at face value would lead me to believe like we get one shot, make your best pitch with your best project and see what happens. And I know Justin and I had conversations about that this money is it's not a
Highly
huge
so-
sum. Every year it's going to get more and more competitive as people catch wind of it, and they've done a good job marketing in it. So I would suggest that we do try to put forward the project that we feel like is going to be most competitive. I think they all could fit in a vacuum. It's just like which one's going to be most competitive, I think is a very reasonable question.
So like when you say that the Eckhart Park was what we submitted last year, did we receive that grant? And then that's money that's been set aside for that? It doesn't, the time frame doesn't
Yeah,
have to be
so-
done in that year?
Last year was a little different, and I didn't bring this to you last year because I think it came up quickly and we had a short time frame. It's like, well, this is an active project that we have, just send it. So, and I think somebody from the task force brought it to my attention. I was like, if you guys can get after it and want to make a stab at it, I'm not going to stop you. Now that we have more lead time, they gave us, I get essentially 2 months. We have time to kind of open it up to everybody. But yes, it was successful and it is in hand right now.
So it's a $10,000 grant plus a $10,000 matching portion, so it's a $20,000 impact on any project that we pick.
Well, you just have to make sure you can't put forward a $15,000 project and ask for $10,000.
Right.
So all
Yeah,
three
yeah.
of the projects
Right.
have more
Oh,
than
yeah,
enough
yeah,
matching
right. Yeah,
funds. But it's
So it
a
doesn't just mean the 10, it means $20,000.
no,
it's
it's
just what
just $10,000 grant.
Oh, okay. That $10,000 goes towards the whatever
Project, yeah.
project we pick.
And we're not contributing
Oh, yeah.
$10,000 ourselves, although we could, but that's not
Okay.
what the asks are. All we're doing tonight is deciding which
Right.
one of these
Yep, yep.
projects gets our
Okay, so it's not a
endorsement.
matching 10, okay, okay, thanks.
Yeah, good question.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Gail.
I got
We
a
have
question for you, Gail, if you'd be able to come back up. My question, and I kind of allured to this when we were putting this together, but is the only reason that you're coming to the city of Viroqua for the grant is because of the fact that the museum is located in Viroqua, or are you going to other municipalities to ask this question as well?
Great question. I found out about this grant not too long ago. So I talked to Nate and he was very clear there was going to be competition. So I went to the Town of Harmony meeting because I used to live there. When I first moved here, I bought a house and acreage in the Town of Harmony and I lived there for over 10 years. I wasn't on the agenda, but they allowed me to speak and they were very supportive. What they're waiting for is that their fire department has an application to go in, and there's 3 municipalities with that fire department. They're waiting for a ruling from Amy to see if all 3 have to sign on. If all 3 have to sign on, then I'm out. But I'm hoping that I went through all the grant papers. I can't find anything that tells me you gain any points by having multiple municipalities sign on. Each municipality has 1 application. So I'm pretty hopeful there. And they don't meet until the 27th. But, and the grant has to be in before the 15th of April. So times are short, but no, I'm not silly enough just to come to one spot. I've talked to a couple other ones, and I think time is too short, but I wouldn't give up even if Harmony turns me down on the 27th. You know me, I'm as stubborn as can be. Thanks for that question, because I wanted to put that out there.
Have something to say. Thank you, Gail.
I was simply gonna ask what the precedence is for a scenario like this. If we make a vote on the 3 different items or.
Well, I think somebody just makes a motion to forward one of
specific
them
one,
and
and then
then
we
you have a
decide.
vote, and if it passes, it passes. And if it fails, then we do another motion and then another motion. Does anybody else have any, sorry, is that any other questions?
I know this is a long meeting, but I was curious, Trina, when people are calling for rentals, are these people that are coming from, where are they coming from? To get a sense of.
It's all over, Emma. A lot of times it's groups out of Madison that are choosing Viroqua as kind of a midway point between La Crosse and Madison. But we also have local groups too. The one that called me, that had first called Nate, was from Hillsboro. So it's all over. And it's just unfortunate we don't have the space. And sometimes they want it passed when we're open, and we can't have people in the library when we're closed. So yeah, that's why I'm in hot pursuit of this, because my phone has just rang way too much over the 17 years I've been the library director. And I finally want to be able to say, yes, come to Viroqua, spend your money, stay here, versus what I have to say now. So good question, Emma.
Other thoughts?
Cindy, how far away are you from your goal that you mentioned earlier?
We are in contact with major people that we feel will help us reach it, but the 10,000 would certainly help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said,
So-
it's 60,000.
60 away.
okay.
Yep.
57,000 and change.
Yeah.
And we'll have more to discuss on this later in the month. We wanted to give the Historic Preservation Task Force time to really share the plan before we put the bid in front of your faces. But a lot of it is about making sure that we have a strong contingency pool of money. So we're there. It's just getting comfortable with the numbers. And so I think the gap is very doable. I
Yes.
think that was all I wanted to say. Can I, the one thing I'll say, and this is just, maybe this helps with further conversation, but Trina's project, I think is great, but what I really struggle, every single one of these projects to me, I struggle with because there's caveats to it, right? I think Trina's project would be a great project if it wasn't for the Baldwin grant, because if the Baldwin grant comes in, then this $10,000 is for that project is unnecessary, right? It's $250,000, and that really puts her over the top for the grant. And we're feeling really good about it, except for we just don't know, right? And that's what I struggle with when I talked about that grant. Gail's project at the Historic Society is a great project, except for the fact, can any other municipality in Vernon County sponsor them? If they can, then they don't need us, right? And so it's like, each one needs somebody to sponsor, like he needs one to sponsor him. And then the bathhouse, we're within $60,000. But I think there's been question raised about like how competitive it's going to be when it gets in front of the county. Are there enough people at the county who like this project that they're going to press it forward? I know Justin had a little bit of a weigh in on that, and I just don't know. I really just don't know. So there's sort of, all of them are worthy projects, but all of them have like these caveats to them that equally make me struggle. And that's why I don't have a recommendation in front of you. I just wanted to share like some of my angst, I guess, if that helps you think. That helps or hurts or makes you go further into deadlock on that.
Just let me say one
Go ahead.
thing, as the county seat, this would be for the whole county. This makes me think it would be more attractive to them than you might think.
Sure.
Because it isn't just for the city of Viroqua.
Right. And I've purposely not talked yet because I was wanting everybody to, no, I'm not, but I think it appears that we've talked this one enough. So I'll give my perspective. And in my perspective, doesn't come from a place of thinking any one of these are not great projects and shouldn't go forward. My opinion with the bathhouse, and I talked to Cindy earlier today and with the Welcome Center, I said I have to stop calling it the bathhouse because that's not what it is anymore. Is that they're close, and as Nate alluded here, like this is contingency money they're looking for. I think when the bids come later in the month, you'll find that I don't think that group is going to have a hard time getting to the end. I think with Trina's project, to Nate's point being that it's where it is with the congressional directed spending, I feel like there's some unknowns there, but it's in a really good spot there. With the Historical Society, I think that organization tends to have a harder time raising bigger funds for projects. And I think, based on the keeping the quality of the items there in good shape, we are the county seat. It does draw people into our community. It is an opportunity to be collaborative with something that isn't us in our community. That's the direction that I'd lean, not because any of the other projects aren't really, really good projects, but I think we're so close on the other ones, and this one could really use that extra oomph from the city. So that's my perspective. And I hate that it's not exactly what Cindy wants to hear, because I know she's so passionate, and I know Trina's so passionate about her project. But I believe both of those projects are going to happen with or without this. And I think Gail's project might happen, but it might not happen for a much longer. I mean, 10 grand to the Historical Society is a large contribution, and I think this would really help that. So
With the library project, aren't we under contract for so many years with TC for that particular facility too? And that someday that could be gone and used for something else?
Yeah, it could be.
Not likely, but it could be.
Yeah, I think, what was it, 20-year contract, Trina, we were in for? So yeah, like the draft was for a 20-year contract.
okay.
And yes, if eventually there could be different people in the seats, and it just may not be renewed. So that's certainly something that could happen, although I struggle to see what they would do with it under their current use of the building. But again, in 20 years, we have no idea what the landscape looks like, so.
All right, well, I'm going to try something here. This is Crystal, and I would move that we move forward with the Vernon County Historical Society for the grant process for the Vernon County Community Funds grant.
This is Todd. I second that motion.
all right, we've got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Voice vote's fine, right? Oh. I wasn't sure if you were. All right. If there's no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Oh. Gail.
Believe it or not, I feel kind of bad about this, but thank you so much. But I want to say, keep another project or both of them in the mix, because if I find another supporter, I will relinquish Viroqua's commitment. Because I think these are all three great projects.
Sure.
And
Gail,
I
so
think
do a backup.
that's a really good idea. Let's do a secondary vote. Yep.
yeah,
And
I
if
think
this-
that would be great.
Yep.
And I'll do my best to
Sure.
find another
Sure.
municipality. I've sat in these chairs.
Mm-hmm.
These are tough decisions, and I appreciate you guys willing to sit there and put up with those of us that come and bother you as often as we can. Thank you.
Gail. And I appreciate that point. So we'll do that. We'll open the floor back up on that agenda item.
Okay. Can I just say one thing too, after
Mhm.
that last vote? You know, the museum's been around for years, and I know in my mailbox, we get letters from them wanting donations, and they they're always needing donations, not just for this, but a lot of other things too. So they're endlessly trying to raise money for multiple things, not just this. So that tells me that there's always something that they need to raise money for. And I think this is just a good way to give them a hand. Yeah.
I agree.
So to Gail's point, an excellent point is I would recommend you approve the second project that's on the list. So if Gail says, I don't need you guys anymore and dumps us in the nicest way possible, we can go to the dance with somebody else, right?
Alright.
This is Seth, and I make a motion that we instill the Welcome Center as our second directive if the funds for the community development grant become available.
AJ, I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I'm just going to say that I'm in favor of the library only because when I'm not, and again, as you said, not because they're not worthy and there's lots of work and I can't even imagine the amount of work that's gone into fundraising up to this point. So I don't want to be that rude person that comes at the end of the meetings. But for me, like just working at the county and in government right now, I just don't know how stable funding is at a federal level. I don't have a lot of confidence in it right now, just from what I see. So I just think if we have more confidence that this will, that there's good funding for the Welcome Center. That's just me personally.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We've got a motion and a second. If there's nothing else, we will vote. No, you're fine. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Just me.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you again, and thank you, everybody, for that. We'll move on now to item number 8, which is discussion with possible action on Chad's gone. Fire Department Building Project Budget and Change Orders. Let's jump over that.
We can handle the lease.
Yeah. We'll move on, Sarah, and then we'll come back to that when he comes back. Item number 9, review and possible action regarding Welcome Center lease agreement with the Viroqua Main Street.
Do you want to do yours now or do you want me to cover the lease?
All right, we'll go back to number 8, which I've already read once, so I won't read it again.
Sorry, I'm trying to multitask. It doesn't work well. All right, is Devin on too or no?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. So the first item is to go over the change order, right?
Yep.
Is the pay request on here too or no?
No.
No, okay, fair enough. All right, so you guys have seen this or a version of this probably a couple months ago, I think, with some change orders, running change orders. We'd like to close out this change order. There will be future change orders, but we know this is what we know today, so we wanted to bring that up and in front of you tonight and review it again, give you the most current information, and get your vote on it, I guess. So I'm just going to go through. So a lot of these, again, you've seen before. So the top ones, I'm going to move pretty quick instead of boring you with the same information. Stop me anywhere and obviously ask any questions. And then as I get farther, closer to the bottom, then I'll get a little more detailed because it's new stuff. So 1 through 3 is, if you remember that black dirt issue that we had from the start. So that those top 3, that hasn't changed. You guys had already been made aware of that and approved that, but this is official now on a change order. So that's those top 3. Let's see.
Chad, before you move past those 3, is it correct in my understanding that those have been approved to be used, but are allowances and not the final numbers?
So I can't remember exactly what you approved. I want to say it was like 120,000, let's say.
Yeah, those 3 numbers combined.
Yep, those 3 numbers combined were like you pre-approved like 120 some thousand, give or take. Those numbers come out to be, Nate, you're better at math. What is that? 40, 50, 60?
For 117.
Yeah. So it's less than what you guys had pre-approved. Is that fair answer? Okay. So the top 1 and 2 are basically spent for sure. Number 3, that'll be on the flip side. Once everything is done and they move black soil back to locations, there's a chance that some of that the city will keep, some of that black dirt they'll keep, which then in turn should lower line number 3. But we're going to approve it now. What would happen in the future, or hopefully we'll approve it now. In the future, then we may get a credit on another change order for the black dirt that the city keeps. Clear as mud? No pun intended. Okay. So good, Nate?
Yep.
Okay. So then 4 is just a start date. 5. So we've got quite a few deducts on here too, which is good. So we removed an overhead door on the Welcome Center. There was 6 was for some extra curb work that needed to be done, structural curb work in the roof. 7, they had to make some changes to accommodate structurally for some HVAC stuff. We deducted $21,450 from painting the roof, so the roof's going to stay a natural galvanized look. I figured that there's no reason for painting. It doesn't protect it, doesn't make it last longer, just makes it look pretty.
It wasn't a whole door that you removed. It was just an opener?
Yes.
Is what it said? Yeah, okay.
The opener. So it'll just be a manual lift up and down. That door will get opened half a dozen times a year. So might as well save a fair amount of money. Good question. Let's see. Exposed beams. So if you remember, the overhangs above the bays were originally, you could see like the structural to it. By encapsulating them, it actually made it cheaper and keeps the birds and whatever out of it, protects the beams better. So by doing that, we saved $3,000 because it's less work for them. Metal building reactions, they needed to change some things with the foundation as they were putting the foundation in, some structural things, some more concrete here and there. That was an addition of $7,300. So from what I gather is there's different steel manufacturers. The one that won the bid, each steel manufacturer does things a little bit different. And so therefore the one that won the bid needed some extra work. Henceforth, we had to put in some more concrete and some more structural anchor pieces. And again, I'm sorry, I'm not great at some of this terminology, but hopefully I'm painting it okay for you. Number 11 is a roof hatch. We went, it was going to originally be a steel painted roof hatch. By making it aluminum, it won't be painted. It is more expensive, but then we'll never have to worry about repainting it and it'll last. We won't have rust issues and all that other stuff. So we believed it was worth $315 to remove any maintenance and have better longevity with it. Okay, Nate? Plumbing. So that in the spec, there was fairly expensive hose reels. Yes, hose reels for air. So we have air coming to every one of our fire trucks that keeps the air brake canisters full. So you hop in the truck and drive away. Instead of having expensive hose reels, things like that, we removed that and they're going to just be drops. So they won't retract up in the ceiling. One, I don't like retractors because they never last. They're very expensive. They're cool, but they're worthless in my opinion. So again, those were deducted. We also determined that under each truck, there's a trench drain. They were 8-inch trench drains. We moved them down to 6-inch trench drains. One, we didn't need the capacity of an 8-inch. And 2 is a 6-inch flows water better and typically will keep them cleaner. So again, that's where we saved a lot of money. So all of those items that I talked about. And then we were reusing one of our sinks from the current station. We're moving it over to the new one. So that saved a little bit. So that's $19,000. Some doors got missed. And it had to do with labeling. They had a couple doors that were labeled 138E or whatever, so we were short doors. So that's part of it. Then we added some more push button locks, and that's part C, for access to rooms and things like that instead of using a key or the really expensive swipers. we went with some more push button. And then D was it got missed. So the doors on some of the rooms needed to be fire rated and they were not. So that was you can see the cost up there. So that was total difference with a one small deduct and the additions, that was $10,000. We're asking to do an adjustable height desk for the admin office so that it's a standing desk basically. You can sit or stand. So we're making that change, and then we're removing a file cabinet, I believe, from the admin office, and then we're removing one from admin and we're adding one to mine. So there's some flexibility there, whatever. But overall, those 3 changes were $1,500. Additional signage, we added serving the communities of. We thought was important to get on the building to recognize, obviously, the city of Viroqua, but also the 3 townships that is helping in this endeavor. And so it'll say, serving the communities of those 4 entities. And let's see, something larger sign. Oh, I think the sign on the building ended up getting a little bit bigger, so there's a little bit of money there. So that was $2,800. There's more deducts, so don't worry. Downspouts, number of downspouts, that changed a little bit. So we had some deducts because we ended up not needing as many. But then there was a cost increase due to the wonderful Buy America, Build America, which required to make some changes, which is, you see an addition of $5,200. So with all of those on the downspout, the BABA is $1,600. We added a couple of electrical floor boxes in the day room. That was suggested by some counterparts of ours in the emergency services or whatever. Instead of running extension cords to a chair, they suggested trying to find some good spots to put in some in-floor boxes for charging laptops or whatever it might be. Kitchen equipment, we added a fryer. Originally, we were going to try and use the fryer that we have that the firefighters had purchased, but that runs on LP. The building runs on natural gas. We could convert it, but it's not easy to keep converting it back and forth when we need it mobile on LP versus it sitting in the kitchen. So we're asking to add that. A fire extinguisher got missed, so that's $518. Gravel for entrance. That was something to do with the fact that we didn't get the asphalt in before winter, so they had to bring in an extra load or 2 of gravel to gain access into the building. We did save $2,700 on temporary asphalt ramps. So again, that's probably that gravel, if I remember right. So we paid $325, but we saved $2,720. Gas meter location, this was a fun one. So not everything was going to fit in the location of the generator, the transformer, and the meter. This is a new one for you guys, so I'll spend a little bit of time, sorry. So there wasn't enough room, explosion issues, different things like that. So we ended up deciding to move the meter to another location, which happened. And it was going to cost us money to do that. Well, then something changed some other thing had happened to where something else had to be done. So that was going to cost money. And that was probably relocate the generator. That had to get moved farther away from the building. Well, in doing that, then that changed the situation to where the meter didn't have to be moved. So I made them move it back, and that was all at their cost. So that saved the city money where it was going to originally cost the city money. Long story short, you see on there what our bill would have been, what it cost to remove it, so on and so forth. So throughout all that, we're covering $3,500 because no matter what happened, we had to do something to make it up to code. So again, clear as mud. There's a lot to this. My mind hurts working through all this. Number 22, we shrunk the size of the concrete for the training tower, so that'd save $550. The elevations back there got a little funny with, we moved the tower back a little bit, so we had a little more room between the fire station and the training tower. So they're going to have to add some more gravel, make things flatter and kind of work with the grade so the water flows off there better. So that'll be $1,500. We're adding a couple of wall-mounted racks to house amps and microphone stuff in the training room. We were originally going to just put it on a shelf, put a wooden shelf in there or something, put it on, and the amount of stuff that's going in there, it would be a nightmare. There'd be wires everywhere. It wasn't conducive to long-term efficiency or whatever. Parapet material, something was changed on that. There was a value of $682. We won't be paying for that. There's some shop drawings on, I don't remember what that was, but it was $550. We're not paying for that. Number 28, we got a bunch of rain, if you remember, 5 or 6 inches or something like that back in, help me, when? No, it was later.
October, November.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Devin. October, November, and it made a sloppy mess of work that had been done. So we ended up having to remove a bunch of material and then bring in fresh material from the site, but it had to be replaced or whatever. Nate and I conversed, and it had to get done. If we didn't do it, they wouldn't have been able to keep doing the work. So that was $16,000. Number 29 is a BABA deal for the type of HVAC. To make the HVAC fit with Build America, Buy America, that required upgrading the breakers, electrical breakers for that. So again, because of the grant and the rules that we need to follow and the BABA, we had to make that change of $5,600. Number 30 is winter conditions. So that's normal, right? So that's a breakdown of where we're at as we know it today. So some of it is, heated blankets, gas meters, tenting, again, all the normal stuff. So this is stuff that was in the budget. It's just to show you where we're at so far. I think that line item was like $74,000 is what we allocated for the whole project. So we're at 35 right now.
I'd say we were
go ahead.
pretty lucky if we only had $40 in plowing for the winter.
Yeah. I think they were there once so far,
Right.
maybe twice.
Right.
Yeah.
Could have been much worse.
Absolutely. Let's see, change from hollow metal frame, vestibule, pass through. Oh, so the front window for Daisy's office to work with customers, so on and so forth, was a really basic, simple glass slider or whatever. The concept is to go to an actual glass window, aluminum frame. It'll match everything. It's durable. It's lockable. It's, more secure, let's say. So that was the suggestion. As much as I don't like that price, I agree that we want something better than just a simple glass slider. So that was $3,154. Plumbing items. So as they've been doing installing, if anybody's ever built a new building or dealt with that or whatever, once the plumbers and HVAC and electrical start coming in, they end up bumping into each other at certain situations. So unless you have any questions, I can try, or I'm sure Devin will be willing to jump in. There's all of the items in 33, line 33 are addressing those types of things. They're where someone had to move something or reroute it, so on and so forth. So that was $3,500. Docking station for the generator. What that is it's a box that gets mounted so that if you ever had complete failure, you could wire the building up to get exterior generation to power the building. So it's a code thing, kinda. But again, it would have to be a completely catastrophic event for that to be needed. But I guess it kind of makes sense because you could literally, find a generator and plug it in and away you go. So that bottom number, before I talk about the bottom number, and then Nate's going to jump in with some more global type dollars. Any questions? And then I'll explain that bottom number.
Can somebody elaborate a little bit on the door numbering error and the proper doors that?
Yeah, Devin, do you want to jump in on that? So for the high, if you want to go back to the one.
Yep, I can jump in.
Yeah. So the top, the missing door. So on the plans, there was 2 doors that were named the exact same. And therefore,
The door count was low by
the
one.
door count was low by one because two doors had the same number. So that was that one. Does that make sense? Todd? So yeah, because they had two door number 138Es, there's actually should have been 139E or something, whatever. And so they're short one door. So that was that one. Devin, if you can explain how the fire rated door, the D, I guess, is probably the other one that I'm guessing Todd's thinking or looking at.
Yes. So the dormitories, that area, due to the fire code, it needs to be a fire rated area. However, on the door schedule itself, it did not show it as a fire rated door. So unfortunately, fire rated doors do cost more. How some of these, and maybe I should have jumped in a little earlier, how these items get noticed is through our review process of all the submittals and kind of digging into all the nuts and bolts. So as we review these things and as our engineers review them, if we notice things that we're missing or are not correct, that's where we can remedy it before the contractor orders it and it's on site. So these doors are the correct fire rated doors that are required. Any other ones you want me to jump on?
I just guess I don't see how that is something that should be added on to this when it was a mistake made by someone else. This is kind of my question is why should we be responsible for that?
Good question. So when we're looking, it's more my kind of philosophy on this. When there are things that are simply not included on the plan, so the contractor never bid for it because it was never on the plan, that is essentially an error or omission, which is the driving force of having contingencies. So humans are not perfect, right? So they're going to make errors and omissions on the plans themselves. And that's where you run into items like this, that once you get into, you move through all the plans, you move through the bidding, and then you're, in construction planning and coordinating this, and you see some of those errors and omissions, the contractor never included it in his price. And therefore, someone ultimately needs to pay for it. So to Chad's point earlier, when there's a planning issue and when there's people that are clearly responsible for, multiple errors along the road, that's where we come in and ultimately we got to take ownership of those errors. However, I don't think it's fair for the city to get, fire rated doors for free when they were never on the plan. That's why that contingency comes into play.
Thanks, Devin. I one of the things that we had conversations about with this item in particular is if it's the mistake that wasn't in the city's fault, we request that there not be a markup by Keller to fix the issue, right? So that way they're not benefiting from more changeovers. And I think Devin, you guys have been on board with that arrangement. And
Yeah. So on this first one, it's been everyone knows from that initial meeting with that topsoil, it was not a fun conversation. I have no markup. So usually like with change orders, we'll have markups. I mean, there's owner driven change orders on this change order itself, but on this entire change order one, I didn't include any of our markup. These are all contractor costs. I just did not feel comfortable at this point because it's a partnership. We got to work with each other and it's a challenge.
So that's generally the way we've approached it, is that we don't want to pay extra because of somebody's mistake, but if we never paid for it as part of the bid in the first place, then we're like, yeah, we got to get after it. But the goal is to, minimize those as much as possible. I don't know if anybody else has any perspective, but that's the approach that we've been taking, Mayor. I don't know if you've been close to this and working with Chad and working with Devin. I don't know if you have any other perspectives on that?
Not really. I think you're right. And I know Keller has been very willing to not, they're certainly not interested in benefiting from remedying these mistakes. I feel the same way Todd does, because it's not that we weren't paying for a door, it's that we were paying for the wrong door. So I have a little frustration, I think, but I don't know that it's that I can place it anywhere. It doesn't feel very good. And had you not brought it up, I probably would have, but
Well,
I think we're handling it the best way in the effort of moving, we've got a long project ahead of us. And I think,
The frustration could come from the plans not being accurate, but that doesn't ever seem to be recovered,
right. Because, and I, Chad and I've had that conversation, that we've hired a firm to help us with that, but it also, we have some responsibility to make sure that things are right on there too. But I get about 2 pages into these things and I kind of forget where I'm at and yeah. But no, I think it's being handled probably the best way it can be to keep things moving forward in a positive way. But I get Todd's perspective 100%. I think you're right on there. Yep. No, you're not wrong.
So Chad, is there anything else you wanted? I think you're lead, or you were throwing it out to questions. Does anybody else have any questions?
Anybody else have any questions before we move? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I was also questioning the doors and the kitchen vents or something that were missed, but I guess it depends how much it happens before it becomes a real concern. But my comment right now is going to thank you for cutting costs where you see you can. I appreciate that, like not painting the roof or not having a door opener and a door you're hardly ever going to use or open and close. So I do want to thank you for that.
No, I appreciate that. And if anybody wants to call Devin and ask him how our conversations go when he calls me about any of these items, they don't go easy, I'll tell you that. So I'm not letting Devin off easy. Every time something comes up, I push him hard on why and how this happened and what can we do and, so on and so forth. So thank you for that. I have the same frustrations, like, why am I having to pay for this now? But I do get, if we didn't pay for it in the beginning, we can't expect to get a bunch of stuff for free, but it is still painful to be like, we thought it was this price and now it's gonna be this price and whatever. So we're a good team. We're working through it. I feel like they're doing their absolute best to catch things and to correct them and, do what they can to minimize that pain, let's say. So, but thank you.
Yeah, I thank Devin too for not charging us any markup costs or whatever the term is for that.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Perfect. Anybody else? Okay, so that number on the bottom.
Sorry, I just,
go ahead.
just a quick question. Devin, the winter conditions are through end of January. Do you have any forecasts on where we're at to date?
I would say we are extremely close. Because we're gonna get we got all of our bills for February just probably a week or two ago. My projection on winter conditions, probably total for this project, I would say around the 55,000.
Okay.
For the entire thing,
55 on
based on where we're at.
Something, yep.
Okay, thanks, Devin.
Yep.
Okay, Chad.
So yeah, so 168,657, and that's maybe where you want to bring up your other spreadsheet. So that's a big number to me. I don't like that number. But then if you break that number down, which I think is important to do to a point. So you've got winter conditions. We just talked about that. So 35,000 of that was winter conditions, and that's normal, right? That was a separate line item in our budget for this project to account for that. So we're still paying it, but I'm trying to narrow that number down a little bit to show you the bigger scope of like the true change orders, right? And Nate's he put together it on a global picture or whatever. What also then in that 168,000 is, remember the soil conditions. So it was 117, I think, plus that's $16,000 to address the heavy rain. So that number, you pull those numbers and put them in their actual line items, let's say, of the budget. it ends up being like $5,000 or $6,000 of all of those change orders I went through, doors, remove this, add that, missed this or whatever. It's like $5,000 or $6,000. And again, Nate's got those numbers, so that you can see that. So when I looked at it that way, still a lot of money. Still gives me heartburn, but I felt a little bit better that over all of those changes and some those struggles or whatever with the actual building, it was like $5,000, $6,000, give or take. So Nate, if you want, why don't you go from there? Because I think you can.
I mean, it's hard. There's a lot of different ways you can look at it, but this number right here is one way. So this number here is the general contingency, which means first of all, we've removed the $35,000 that has been spent on winter conditions. Okay. And then we removed the $110,000 that was allocated because of the soil issues way up front. So that was something that is a typical problem on most construction sites. Nothing we can do to help it. We just had to address the issue. You know, obviously we were frustrated that the soil borings didn't reveal that ahead of time, but I don't think it would have changed the fact that we were going to spend that money whether we knew about it up front or not. And then I think as Chad was saying, if he starts going through here and starts taking out stuff that just there wasn't an option to it. And I think you mentioned some of those things, Chief. And I can't remember which some of them were offhand. Oh, the $16,000. So if you take out number 28 because of that was just something that was due to weather and some other delays, normal stress and frustrations of any construction project. You start to see how that number comes down into like what did we really control, right? Like what could we really control? And that number ends up being pretty darn low, especially as Chad balances out what he adds versus what he deducts, right? And so that's not quite the number you talked to, Chad, but I think that kind of explains the point.
Change a little bit, I think, when updated winter conditions and things like that came through too. So yeah, don't quote me exactly on that number, but it's. And I forgot to bring my spreadsheet of how I broke it down, but yeah, I think so. Kind of show them where we're at, where we're thinking, and
so this is just this was sent out as part of your packet, I believe. And again, this was just to give you an update on what we're forecasting, where the project where we would like it to be. So this is what was approved when we approved the construction contract, this budget here. This is where we're currently at in terms of what has hit our books. What have we paid for? Pay requests that have gone out the door. This is what we expect to pay to finish the project. And then this is the final forecast. So as you can see, despite spending on things coming up, we expect to come underneath in terms of both some of the soft costs we had, as well as a good amount of the contingency. So this is a number here where you'll see that, you know, we're sort of tracking how much winter conditions have been spent, how much will be spent, and then general contingency, how much have been spent, how much will be spent. And out of the total $450,000, we expect to have to spend about $300,000 of that. So we'll still come out for $150,000 under budget based on our current forecasts. And that's, again, that's a little bit of a crystal ball situation. We've gotten through the front end of the project where there's a higher expectation of encountering things, but that doesn't mean we're in the clear yet until the project's done. So I don't know, any additional or comments to that, Chief, or any questions from the group?
It's what we talked about the other day, and that number does include some things that are kind of on the horizon that we know we're looking at, might need to address. So yeah, at this point, that's what we're feeling. 100%.
I don't think I had my mic on for that last point, but you all heard it. It's fine.
Any questions? No?
So today we would be looking to approve the change orders, Chief?
Yes, correct.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fire department building project budget and change orders.
This is Crystal. I'll second.
All right, got a motion, a second. Any other questions? We'll do a roll call, please.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirkie,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and Seth.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep. Do you guys want to take a quick 5-minute break? Yeah. Okay. We'll take a quick break. We've got a ways to go here yet. So we'll.
Gotta go.
I didn't even All right, everybody. Thank you for that. We're gonna move on to item number 9, which is, let me make sure I'm right here. Yes, item number 9, review and possible action regarding the Welcome Center lease agreement with Viroqua Main Street Chamber.
Okay, so I know lease agreements on a night like this scares everybody, but we have reviewed this before. We reviewed this on January 28th on purpose to get everybody acclimated and sort of do the first walkthrough of the language so that when we hit this point, we wouldn't have to do it at this point. So I just want to bring this draft language. This was sent out as like a separate attachment with your packet. And there are a few redlined items that, there should be some redlined items, or this is the clean one. Let me get the non-clean one. That is probably still the, 1 second. Thought I had all this queued up. Okay, here we go. So this is, this shows the changes that were made to the lease agreement since you last looked at it, and they are pretty minimal. Really what it comes down to is just a few things that the chamber want cleared up. First one is that they didn't want to take possession of the building until January 1st at the earliest because they didn't have in their budget. Makes sense. No problem. I don't think we were really anticipating them taking it this year anyway. And the way that the bids are looking, the building's not going to be ready by January 1st because it's a smaller construction crew, which means it's just going to take closer to the full amount of time. So it's just not going to be ready. This should be just fine. I don't think there's any concerns there with changing that date. The other two are that I just, for clarity, noted that the exterior stairs are not their responsibility. It's part of the outside building facade, so that just adds that to the list of things that we as the landlord are responsible for. Again, the general philosophy on this building is they are in charge of maintenance and utilities of things within the building. We are in charge of maintenance of things outside of the building, except for some small things like shoveling of the walk between the building and the multi-use path. Simply because that's not, when a snow event happens, that's not going to be our priority to take care of that walk. It's going to be to take care of all the public right of ways, the police department and fire department, parking lots, things like that. And then the last thing there is, again, just additional language there to really specify that we are responsible for the turf grass, mowing and stuff outside the building, behind the building, side yards, rear yards. So those are the extent of the changes. We went through the lease in full a month ago, a little over a month ago. So I'm happy to answer any other questions, or if you, since you've had an opportunity to sit with the lease a little longer, if you want clarification, I'm happy to do that as well. But this is the document that's in front of you. I will say the chamber is reviewing it on Thursday and is prepared to approve it. And all of this would be, of course, contingent on us approving a construction contract for the bathhouse itself, hopefully later this month. Well, actually, the construction contract will take a little bit longer, but approving the bids and then the construction contract probably in early April.
Thanks, Nate. Questions? Now we're looking for a motion.
This is AJ. I'll make a motion that we move forward with the welcome center lease agreement.
I'll second it. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Yeah, just for clarification, I would suggest it be contingent on the signing of the approval of a construction contract.
Lori, can you add that? Please, please, and thank you.
That's what I was gonna ask, but he went quicker than I did, so.
Go with that, Todd?
Second that one too.
Any other questions now? All right, we'll do a roll call.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
and Andrew.
Aye.
Right. Move on to item number 10, authorization to go out for bid for infrastructure on Hanson Farm development.
So Matt is not with us tonight, but Sarah will serve as a nice proxy. She's been working with Matt on the project from an engineering standpoint. And what we'd like to do here tonight is to just walk through sort of the current design for the infrastructure on the project, talk a little bit about what the opinion of probable cost is, and then get your authorization to go out to bid. Do know that the request for authorization to go out to bid will also be contingent on a future item, because we are going to look at the MOUs for the 4 developers at the end of the month. But similar to what we did with the lease agreement, I want to not feed you from a fire hose with all the information at once. So we're going to just walk through the engineering part of this first, and then it will, if you like it and we get the MOUs done as planned, we'll move forward with actually releasing it to bid. Okay, so there is a little bit of a safety valve on this. So Sarah, where did you want to start with the actual engineered plans?
Sure. Well, I think everyone has seen this at least at one point in time. And I guess there's not a lot additional that you can't already see, right? So we've got our one road that is currently not connected to Main Street, but will be connected. That's Road A. And that's going to be a major or a main thoroughfare area that connects to the future traffic signal, which is another agenda item that we have further tonight. And so that one's a little bit wider, as I believe it's a 36-inch road or foot road. But it's really tiny. But again, we're expecting to see some decent amount of traffic come through there because it's, now a connection. It's a much needed connection connecting the north part of the city. And the additional roads, I was here more standard width. So actually, I might have been wrong. It might have been 36 on. You see when you zoom in, Nate, when I can't see. I think if the other one's a bit bigger, it might be 42. So there's water and sewer and storm sewer throughout the project. It serves all of the properties. We're looping the water main, which is always very important. You'll hear me say that often. The stormwater pond is for the development, so that would be in the southwest corner. And again, we've talked about it, trying to make it as attractive as possible, more of a feature than just utilitarian as a pond, but it does serve dual purposes. The circle, or the, I guess, obscure shape that goes around there is not actually the ponds, but it is the path that's going to go around the pond. So we're making sure that there is sidewalk access throughout the properties, and then also a multi-use trail. So the wider lines that you see that are white are those multi-use trail versus the sidewalks, which are in those gray areas. And again, we're just trying to connect everybody throughout the system. I don't even know what more to explain that I think is pretty apparent with the plan, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, and these infrastructure plans have been shared with the developers, and they're on board. You see some of the paths cutting through some of the properties to connect to the stormwater pond, which again, we're treating as an amenity, a green space amenity more than anything. And so the interconnectivity is great, and there's costs associated with that. But again, I think our goal is to try to make this a very walkable, livable environment.
Yeah, I think if you look at the cost opinion, the paths and sidewalks, while they may have a price tag to go
Right.
with them, they're only about 4% of the total project cost. So it's a small portion of the infrastructure.
That will add so much to the project.
Agreed. It's always the thing that doesn't get put in that everybody comes back after and says, there's no sidewalks or there's no way to connect everybody. And so this also works together with the network that we hope to have in the future where we can bring people from the north end of town and get them down Chicago Avenue. And then I guess the phasing would be the only thing, looking at that is not a part of the black outlined area, sort of on the eastern side, depending on when things come online. So I think phase one, we were talking about what we can see right now, but eventually the connection will be made. And I think the timing is important to have the traffic signal there when the roads connect.
And not to steal Sarah's thunder from later in the agenda tonight, but they are targeting 2027.
Yes, hesitantly, yes.
To the best of our forecasting ability, and that is about what time we also, I think, would be prepared as a city to make our connection there, so we can take advantage of economies of scale and
Yeah.
sharing mobilization costs and things like that to just sort of have that done. But it's not a part of this first phase, and probably in some ways a good way, because that would put a lot more
Yeah,
traffic right into that intersection without it being controlled. It would be challenging.
the timing seems fortunate.
Yeah. Almost like we planned it.
It was forceful in trying.
Yeah, no, through sheer will. Is there any buddy who has questions before I flip off this and reorient the pages? Because Lori didn't put it the way I like it.
I would say maybe
Anybody
the
has any comments on this?
only thing we didn't talk about was the park, the road that goes on the south end of the park, which is going to be a public space so people can drive through. That's so we don't have dead ends, but it's a smaller area and there's going to be off-road parking. So it's not intended to be a road where people park on. That's what the stalls are for.
All right. So we'll move back to this then and just really talk about what does the plan look like. So here you can see March 4th is when they talk about true authorization to bid. I'm not sure I don't know why that's up there, but as you can see, I think they were just a week ahead of time.
I think it was Public Works.
Yeah, I think it was maybe public. Is that when we got through public? Did we even take?
Yeah, we didn't bring it to Public
Yeah,
Works,
so I
but that
think
would
they
have
just
been the
got the wrong-
meeting. He's
They just got the
normally
wrong
used to.
week, so disregard that. That should be today. And then again, taking the MOUs to council so that we have those soft commitments from all the developers. And then at that point, we would authorize to go out to bid. When we got to the point where we are looking at a contract award, that's when we're gonna have hard development agreements with the developers. Because if we're gonna lay out the kind of money that I'm gonna talk about, we need the tax base to pay for it. So those two, similar to what we just did with the bathhouse lease, we want to make sure that all the pieces that make it a solid plan are all getting approved at the same time, and then we go. Okay, so that's the general goal here, and the total that we're looking at with contingency and all professional services. So the engineering contract we'll talk about in just a bit, $3.785 million. Big number. I have, based on the 100 units of the 4 developers, so we're talking about 100 residential units total, based on their tax base and their construction schedule. My preliminary TIF assistant says that this is very much a doable project. Okay, we're going to have sufficient tax base over the next 16 years, which is the remaining life of the TID, to repay the construction debt with the proceeds from the new tax base. Okay, and I'll just pause there for a second because I know some of those who are the seasoned council members are super familiar with TID, but TID may not be a super well-known item for other folks. So is there any questions about that? So again, the idea is these 100 units will be able to create enough new tax base that they're going to help pay our construction loan year in, year out for the next 16 years. And so what we'll do before we get to construction though is I've had CETA look at my TIF analysis, and then I will have Ellers look at my TIF analysis just to make sure the smarter people that we have at our disposal have double checked the work and that give us the green light to say, yes, this is a sound business decision. You have the funds, and you can, basically what we'll do is a TIF revenue bond, which we've done before on other projects to pay for it. We used to do that quite a bit when it came to actually doing the developer grants. And in this situation, we're not doing any developer grants because their grants are basically going towards the infrastructure. Right? So the developers themselves aren't getting the money directly. We're saying what we would have given you to help with this is going towards getting you roads and sewer and stormwater and et cetera, sidewalks. So at this point, again, we would be looking at authorization to go out to bid contingent on MOUs being approved at the end of the month.
Okay, this is Crystal, and this is what I had written down, that we should go out for bids for the Hanson Farm project contingent on the MOUs that would be approved later this month. And the amount is $3,785,000.
Cindy, I'd second.
That's not right.
Pardon me.
You just
$3,785,000.
I screwed up the numbers.
I don't think you need.
You don't need the
number, though.
amount in
Okay, we
there.
don't need the number. Okay.
It's just a forecast. We'll let the bidders just, we'll let the bidders decide what the actual number is.
Good call.
They want to
We've
say,
got a motion. Do we
they
have? a
want to say
second?
2.5 million.
Cindy seconded. All right. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Number 11, discussion with possible action regarding Veerbecker contract for engineering services on the Hanson Farm development.
I'll start. You can just bail me out if I miss something. So we've approved one service contract with Veerbecker, but that was to get us through preliminary plat. Right? So they did the phase, called a phase one. Now we're well into the actual hard engineering, construction documents, et cetera, going out to public bid for this project. And so we're well past due to approve this additional service cost. What is on here is within that number I just gave you. So that 3.785 million includes their cost of engineering as well. And in talking with Sarah, she noted that that 10% is a very normal amount for engineers. Did I say that properly? So this is just, they're very thorough in what it all includes, and it basically gets us from project. Sarah can maybe speak to this a little bit more if there's anything odd or normal or whatnot in their scope of services.
Yeah, this is pretty standard. They've worked for us a lot, and there's not really any surprises here. I think it's always important to note the construction observation is an estimate, so they'll actually bill us for the time. So that fluctuates sometimes depending on the contractor, if how much we need to be watching them and how long the project takes. So they usually do a good job of estimating, but it is not a not to exceed number. It is an estimate.
And this is the only, so whereas I said before that 3.785 million, that was something that's coming in the future, we'll sign a contract. There is a portion of that we are committing to now, right? Which is to allow them all the work that they've been doing with Sarah and I and creating these engineering plans and putting it out to bid is a cost that we are committing to at this point. But I think it basically ends right around here. So if worst case scenario, we don't like the bids and we decide not to move forward, then we're incurring these costs. And these costs would not be incurred if I'm understanding correctly.
Cindy, I make a motion, we approve the Veerbecker contract for engineering services on the Hanson Farm development.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Do we need to add that it's for the amendment amount of 288,300, since that's the amount that's in there?
Yeah.
Do you want to add that, Cindy?
Certainly, let's add the agreement.
Would you like to second that, Todd?
288,300.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Emma?
Aye.
Todd Spath?
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
I,
Andrew,
Aye.
and Todd Kirking.
Aye.
All right, item number 12, discussion with possible action on resolution for tax increment district number 3, affordable housing extension.
Okay, if you remember how we did TID number 2, where we did the affordable housing extension for the final year of the TID, we're doing the same thing here for TID number 3. We've the previous tax roll that was collected in 2024 paid off all of our project costs, but we are allowed to go one more year to use the final year for affordable housing. So this extension would extend the life by 1 year, and we actually have been through that year. So what we collected from the 2024 tax roll collected in 25 that we just did is actually the time frame that we're collecting for the affordable housing. So this resolution would be sent to the Department of Revenue to allow us to do that 1 year extension per the statutes that we get to do before
Thanks, Lori.
closing.
Questions?
Anybody, any of our new folks have questions about the concept of the affordable housing extension and generally what it's used for? Do you like a quick 30 seconds? Yeah, I know. So just real quick, affordable housing extensions are great. There's, in my opinion, zero reason not to take them. We get to make the decision unilaterally. We don't have to go back to the joint review board, and they were set up so that we can capture just one more year of TID, which is the tax revenue from not just us, but from all the entities, for the entities being the county, the school district, and the tech college. We get to capture them all for a specific plot of land, all the stuff that's blanketed under TID 3. It's a district in the city. We keep them for one more year. They go into a pot of money that's called the Affordable Housing Fund, and we can use that to support the development of affordable housing anywhere in the city. And again, for those reasons, I would highly recommend we do this.
Anywhere in the city, I didn't know.
Anywhere in the city.
That's great.
We've actually utilized some of those funds here within the last period. So I mean, they're
so part of what we'll talk about when it gets to bills is that to get the North Point project done, we allocated $130,000. Help me. 130, no.
140,000.
Thank you. Close. $140,000 of affordable housing money to them, and that money is what we're capturing from TID 3. So we anticipated this happening and packaged it up to North Point. So not only do I highly recommend you do this, we also need to do this.
This is Todd. I'll make a motion to extend the TID 3 affordable housing.
I don't second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any other questions? Well, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 13, discussion with possible action on resolution for tax incremental district number 3 termination.
So now that you've extended it a year that we should have actually done last year, we actually have to close this TID. And we have found that the remaining amounts of money after the affordable housing extension can be transferred to TID number 6. So after this is all closed, we will be, any extra increment that is in there after the affordable housing will get transferred to TID number 6 to help with some of these other projects versus having to send it back to the other entities. So what this does is it basically tells the Department of Revenue that we are going to be closing this, that we have to do our final reporting to them. But so that's why the affordable housing extension had to be done first, and then we can close the TID. So we just need the resolution to do that as well.
I'll make a motion that we pass the resolution for tax increment district number 3 termination.
Steve, I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 14, discussion with possible action on resolution regarding authorized signers for annuity claim for McIntosh Memorial Library.
Okay, this is something that the library was not even aware of, and Trina's still here, so if I have questions, I'm gonna bring her in, but basically, we received a notice that a previous resident of the city of Viroqua left an annuity to the library in the amount of 5% of the annuity amount, which the annuity was a little under $64,000, 5% of that. And in order for us to execute the documents to receive the money from this, we were required to tell them who is the agent of the McIntosh Memorial Library, which is actually under the tax ID of the city of Viroqua. So I wrote this resolution and basically stating that the mayor and myself would be the ones that would be the signatories for this, to basically tell them that it's okay that the city is who we say we are. And hopefully with all the documents that have to go through, they will release the annuity to us. So that's basically in a nutshell what this one's about.
Larry?
And this is Crystal. I would move that we authorize the signers for the annuity claim for McIntosh Memorial Library as defined earlier.
This is Cindy, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 15, approval to accept DOT HISP grant for Walmart intersection. I don't know that this needs any explanation, does it?
Just talk. I would just talk through it.
We're ready to approve.
Sorry, it's been a long meeting and I'm not doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. So the good news is that the DOT awarded us, the DOT, money from the Highway Safety Improvement Program to put the traffic signal at Walmart. So that's awesome. The way that the HISP grant works is we end up paying 25% of the preliminary engineering, which is like the design cost, which amounts to, and I just was going to pull it up, I think it's 28,000. And so they build and do the rest of it. And the project is, here we go. The project in total is 936,000. Now, the bad thing about this is that it would be 3 of the 4 legs of the project. So we still do have to fund the 4th leg. They don't consider new development a part of the existing situation. And so we certainly have to work through that part. However, when I met with them yesterday, they explained that, and it makes sense, I just hadn't thought of it initially, that the leg that the Walmart traffic sees is the one on the west side. So they actually are working to get all the work done on the west side to a certain extent, like up to the radius. And then it would be the light that's sitting at Walmart where the people in the Hanson Farm would be looking into that we would be responsible for. So it actually kind of makes it a little bit easier. And they are willing to just put that in for us and then charge us for that portion. So we don't need our own engineer, our own contract. So it's great. And so then basically it will marry well with the work that we're doing on the Hanson development. So
Is the correct document?
it is the correct document. Thank you. It's 29,750. I was close. So I think the one thing they've been struggling with is that this is a TOT project, which is good because when we do the project, we always have to follow all their rules, but we still do all the work, which is just, I finally said to them, it just really is our preference for you to do the job because we don't have a lot of latitude with it. We just follow their rules. So the one thing with DOT projects, as we've seen, is that it takes forever to go through the process. I mean, they're just like on edge that this might be a 2027 project, which I thought, I was in the meeting with Matt and I thought Matt is just going to lose his mind thinking about how slow this goes, but that's just their process. So the one thing that they wanted to make sure is that like, if there's anything that comes up, they're not anticipating. So like right now they look at the right of way that was already there for the storm sewer. So the DOT actually owns a fair amount and they think that all of the real estate is there for them already. If for some reason that wasn't the case, We probably will get bumped to 2028 because they just take so long. However, their goal is 2027, and that's why we already met, even though we haven't signed this agreement yet. So they're like, are you going to sign the agreement? I'm like, we're going to do it tonight. We'll have it for you tomorrow. So Mayor, please make sure I get your signature. But in any case, happy to answer questions, but I think this is just good news for all involved.
Cindy, I make a motion, we accept the DOT HISP grant or make the motion to accept it for Walmart intersection.
Sage, I'll
Public
second.
Works approved.
Got a motion and a second. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Gerking,
Aye.
and Emma.
Aye.
All right. Item number 16, discussion with possible action on private lead service line replacement financing ordinance. This is the first reading.
So, excuse me, while Nate's pulling the ordinance up first, I will start here. So about a year and a half ago now, Sarah and I found out that the city of Viroqua was awarded $250,000 lead service line or LSL replacement grant for the 24 and 25 grant period. The grant was to assist property owners with replacing any lead or galvanized property side water service lines. The two previous LSL grants that the city had received was 100% principal forgiveness. So this made things pretty easy. This grant, however, is a 75% principal forgiveness and a 25% safe drinking water loan funds. So for our calculation purposes, we used an average of $5,500 to replace a water service line. The reason why I'm saying this is because that means $4,125 will be reimbursed from the grant as principal forgiveness, and 25% would be the customer cost of $1,375. So recognizing that our customers might not always be able to afford that $1,375 upfront, we the utility would like to offer the customer financing. The financing agreement is next on the agenda. However, in order to provide the financing agreement, the city of Viroqua does need to have a private lead service line replacement financing ordinance. It's a lot of words. So just a few things to note on the ordinance. The ordinance is written as the city of Viroqua. However, the utility will manage the paperwork and the funds. Although the grant is titled Lead Service Line Replacement, I do want to point out that in section 13.11.20020G of the ordinance, this definition does include galvanized material that is or was downstream of lead. And I say that's important because we do have quite a few galvanized service lines that may be taking advantage of this opportunity. The ordinance also states the repayment will be in the form of a special charge on the customer's property taxes for a period of up to 5 years. And in section 13.11.090, we are charging to have the utility cover the labor and administration costs without having to raise taxpayer rates. There will be a $230 administrative fee. And we arrived at this administration fee by taking all of our fixed costs for administering the grant. And then we included the interest we'll have to pay for the loan, our closing costs, etc. So that was the ordinance in a nutshell. Do you have any questions? I'm trying to speed things up for you guys.
This did come out of.
This, oh yes, I forgot to say, this did come up from Public Works.
I'll make a motion, we approve the private lead service line replacement financing ordinance. First, well, waive the second.
That'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other questions?
I want to thank Cheryl front of everyone for all the work they've done for this. I mean, this is like she said, 1.5 years, constant emails, phone calls, and Sarah was involved in it too. Thank you for what you're doing for the citizens of Viroqua.
Well, we may see you again. We're not done.
Not done yet.
I'm not sure.
All right, any other questions? Well,
Cheryl, do you think you need a roll call on this one? Because it's kind of spending money, but not really, kind of on the ordinance side of things.
I guess it can't hurt.
I'm
why don't
thinking we
just do it
probably
anyway?
should, just to
We
be
should
on the
just
safe
do it to
side.
cover our bases, just in case.
Okay.
We'll do a roll call.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
and Todd Spath.
Aye.
All right, we'll move on to item number 17, which is discussion with possible action on financing agreement for the lead service line grant.
Okay, so this was also brought forward from the Public Works Committee. And in order to help all of our customers, if the customer is unable to afford their replacement costs, like I said, we'd like to offer some financing. So this is a financing agreement that our village attorney did put together that fulfills all of the requirements of the grant as well as the requirements of state statutes. Again, a couple of things just to point out. We do have under the consideration that the amount of the loan will not exceed $2,700 plus the $230 administrative fee. The estimate or for our calculation purposes, as I said, we used $5,500. So 25% of that would be the $1,375. So Sarah and I feel that $2,700, which would be the customer's 25%, is ample to cover any additional replacement costs that, because they're not all the same. The property owner does have the ability to pay this over 5 years. It is going to be a special charge on the property taxes. We will charge 1% annually for the administration fee of handling the loan. The paperwork will also be done by the utility, even though it does say City of Viroqua. If the property owner does sell the property, it will become part of their closing costs. And they do have the right to prepay this off earlier without a penalty. It's about all the things I really wanted to just bring to your attention as far as the financing agreement goes. The rest of it is a lot of legal talk. So is there any questions on the agreement?
Thank you very much.
I would like
was
to
just
have
gonna-
this approved, please.
Yes.
I was just use my public health knowledge. In the event they suspect you have lead on your water lines, just run your water for 5 minutes in the morning. We'll clear it out usually. In the meantime.
Before you get it replaced.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, any other questions? Now we're looking for a motion.
This is Crystal, and I would move that we approve the financing agreement for the lead service line grant. Do you need monies? Good.
This is Emma. I'll second that motion.
Get a motion in a second. We'll do roll call on this one too, just.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
and Cindy. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 18, payment of the bills.
Cindy, I make a motion, we pay the bills.
We've got a motion. Is there a second?
Todd will second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? I think Lori
Okay,
has
I-
something she'd like to
I
say.
just want to say one thing. I know you want to do this quick, but because we did that whole thing that we wanted to talk about as far as the 200,000 and the 140,000 that's payable to the Main Street apartments because of the agreement that we made, that's the housing funds that is going to be a part of that, and then TID 6 part of that. But that's a $340,000 payment we'll be making, and I wanted to make sure you guys were all aware that that's in there. So before you vote.
Of course we did. We all read the email.
I know, but I just wanted to make sure, since he referenced it when we were talking about that.
Yeah, we did talk through it in finance.
Yeah.
It's at the very end there of the additional bills.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We've got a motion, a second. Is there any other questions? Roll call, please.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirkie,
All right.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and John.
Aye.
All right. Our next agenda is actually a closed session, but we still have a member of the public here, and I'm wondering if I can move public comment up if in fact you do have I don't know if you have anything before we go into closed session. I don't want to make you sit out there and wait. Yeah. You certainly don't have to. I just. Okay. Is there?
Yeah. So if
yeah.
you want, just to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to do that. I just thought rather than make you go sit out there and then have to wait and come back, this way we can knock this out. Go ahead.
Oh, you have to press the little button.
The person.
All right. Deb Miller, 1104 Rogers Avenue. I'm just putting my formal application in as the housing advocate for the homeless advisory board. Sorry, I'm looking at people smiling. And I'm just as somebody who had experienced homelessness and have some good ideas for resources on what could help. As a country, we have quite a pandemic of homeless people. There's a general push and a need, I feel, for tiny home communities to help integrate people back into civil life after you've been living chronically homeless for a long time. You become like an animal, and it just becomes like unmet need after another unmet need. We have a lot of aging population also, so there's a concern for everybody's parents. And what are we going to do with them? So that's my biggest contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anybody online that would like to make a public comment? If not, we'll hop back up in order. All right. Thank you, everybody, for that. We'll go back to item number 19, which is possible closed session per Wisconsin statute 1985 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governing body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. And this is in regards to street operator and training position and utility operator and training positions from Public Works.
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
Steve, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, and we'll do a roll call.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirkie,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Crystal.
Okay, we're back in an open session.
All right, we are back in open session. So item number 20 is reconvene in open session with possible action on items discussed during closed session.
And this is Crystal. I would move that we approve the items as discussed in the closed session.
Cindy, I second that.
Got a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirkie,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and Seth.
Aye.
All right. With that, since we did the period for public comment already, we take a motion to adjourn.
This is Emma and I make a motion to adjourn.
Out of second.
All motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Did you?